And Mike Rogers is at the desk, and he is following this breaking news, the pursuit of a suspect who is wanted for assault. And he is following this breaking news, the pursuit of a suspect who is wanted for assault with a deadly weapon. All right, Mike, what are we looking at?
Hey, Pat, yeah, so we're sorting out the want here. It originally came out as an assault with a deadly weapon. They're also calling this possible DUI. It's possible here that the person that is behind the wheel has previous convictions for assault with a deadly weapon. So we're sorting out all of the details here about exactly what this person is wanted for right now. But we do know this is LAPD in the Valley right now, and they are been kind of circling the Valley. We're Van Owen and White Oak here. The person appears to be known by LAPD. We've been hearing them kind of talk about this person's criminal history. So it sounds like they have an idea. I just heard another one where they're talking about he is known to have weapons violations. So that may be why we are not in tracking mode. This is still a full-blown pursuit at this point. This is units from LAPD's West Valley Division that are in pursuit of this right now, Pat.
Okay, what kind of car are we looking at?
I'm trying to see what that is too myself. It's obviously a sedan. I can't tell what kind of car that is. We'll work on getting that for you.
All right, you got that. But in the meantime, as you're saying, Mike, this person seems to be known to law enforcement. And obviously, this happened because they picked up the license plate, or they've been looking for this person and noticed, okay, they look familiar.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. It sounds like this person also has some probation violations going on. So it sounds like there's a whole host of issues with this car and with this registered owner of this car that they're trying to pull over, which obviously has not stopped. Now, we have not gotten far at all from the original location. We've just been kind of doing circles. We're in the Lake Balboa area. We're just to the west of Van Nuys Airport, to the southwest of Van Nuys Airport at this point. We're going Balboa, and your next major cross is going to be Victory. So we're southbound Balboa, approaching Victory. This guy's all over the road and has been at high speeds, blowing through lights there. I mean, that one was a green light, but we've seen him go through red traffic signals as well. So this guy's kind of just been all over the place as LAPD chases him.
And possibly impaired, which makes it even a bit more dangerous, I would say. And, you know, this is the first Monday, first really day of the work week for a lot of people going back to work in the new year.
Yeah.
And still, that area still has pretty busy traffic.
It does, and especially as we get, you know, we've got on one side we've got Balboa Park, the other side we've got the Sepulveda Basin Sports Complex. So, you know, hopefully there's not any, you know, it's 9:30 at night, so hopefully all of the kids' athletic, you know, activities have finished up for the night. But we're going to be approaching the Ventura Boulevard here soon, so we're going to go southbound Balboa. The next major is going to be Burbank, then we'll go under the 101. And then we'll be able to get to Ventura. And if we get to Ventura, obviously we know pretty much any time of day Ventura Boulevard can be pretty crowded.
Yeah, and no question about that. And so far, this person has been on surface streets. That's why we have LAPD in pursuit. Not CHP, because they've not been on the freeway that we know of.
So they just avoided a spike, or maybe hit the spike. There was a spike strip attempt right there at that intersection, and we can't tell yet whether or not they've gotten, okay, we're getting on the 101 now. Yeah, right
as we speak.
Right as we speak, yeah. Yeah, but to your point, Pat, yes, he has been surface streets the entire time. This is the first time we've gotten on the 101 freeway. Hopefully we'll be able to see soon here whether or not he actually hit that spike strip. I know he was close to it. They had been trying that. You know, they're asking right now whether or not he hit the spike, so we'll hear that in a second. But they had been trying a couple of times to spike him in a few different locations, which kind of shows you the aggressiveness of LAPD. Look, LAPD doesn't generally throw spikes in the middle of a pursuit or traffic like that. So this is something that they're really trying to bring to an end, and we'll have to wait and see here in a couple of seconds, hopefully, whether or not that spike was successful.
All right, are those correct? I'm looking at the speeds here. That's pretty incredible.
Yeah, we're going
100 miles an hour.
Which makes you think maybe the spike didn't work, right? We know it's a slow deflate on those tires when the spikes do hit, but the fact that we haven't really slowed at all from, you know, triple-digit speeds, right around 100 miles an hour, it means maybe he didn't hit that spike strip, which would be unfortunate because it was a well-placed strip by those patrol officers from West Valley.
And they had heads up because this person seemed to be going in circles, so to speak, or you know, covering the same territory. But now he's on the 101. Possibility, Mike, would they ask CHP to get involved?
Yeah, and that's what I'm wondering right now if they're going to do that. Especially since we're on the freeway now, kind of, you know how it runs north/westbound of the 101 right there. So we're going like coming into the Tarzana area. I'm waiting to hear if they're going to request CHP. Certainly they would have the opportunity here now that we are on the freeway. And look how fast this guy's going, Pat.
Yeah, that's as you're noticing, don't see any damage on this, at least from this picture here to the tires. So again, we were talking about whether that spike strip was successful or not. It sounds like there's only one person.
As far as we know, we have not heard anything else. I mean, those windows are kind of our typical pursuit tint here, where it is a little bit darker. Now there is, so they just said the car is a gray Lexus. Okay. And John, who's our photographer in SkyCal tonight, was getting a pretty tight shot. And it looks like that front bumper may have some minor damage. I couldn't tell though if it was anything that might catch the tires at all, or it's just kind of, well, it's kind of hard to tell, but it looks like it may be wobbling around a little bit there.
Possibly indicating that that spike strip could have been
potentially, or
effective.
They hit something along the way. On the right side of your screen, that's the spike attempt right there. And you see it as you kind of come through the intersection of Balboa and Burbank. Here, we'll slow it down for you, and you'll see it one more time. I don't think he hit it. It looked like it was just slightly, he saw it coming and was able to get out of the way. Now we're getting off the freeway here, and I believe this is at Winnetka is where we're getting off right now, and making that, should be northbound turn, I believe, onto Winnetka, So now we're back in the valley. I mean, this is not, Pierce College is going to be on the left there as he passes it. This person has not really kind of ventured very far away from where they've been, the west end of the valley this entire time.
And I always like to bring up that CHP headquarters, on DeSoto Avenue in Woodland Hills, certainly is not far from where this person is now.
And you know what, Pat? That is CHP.
Okay.
That's the CHP unit behind it. So at some point, I must have missed that. At some point, they must have swapped out. And you've got CHP now as the lead right behind that car. Let me switch over to the CHP frequency. We'll listen to it there as we're wrong side of the road there, kind of hovering over the middle. Again, at 90 miles an hour northbound on Winnetka here on Surface Streets, Pat. Yeah,
that's right. And again, could certainly pick up traffic. He's approaching Victory Boulevard. There's still, well, as we can see, look how wild he's driving.
Oh, yeah. And it'll be interesting to see what CHP wants to do with it. I mean, they are not, they're not on the freeway here. So if CHP wants to keep this, especially with this really, really reckless driving, we'll see how that goes.
And let's walk us through that again, Mike. Certainly they were asked to get involved. And once they do, they want to stay. Oh, that was close.
That was close. Into a strip mall here to try to get around traffic. There's that CHP unit right behind it. These are CHP officers from the West Valley division, or the West Valley office, rather, of the CHP. And that CHP officer is on his tail tight. They don't want him to think that they're not there, because they very much are. And yeah, Pat, so to your point, when they get on the freeway here, LAPD can request CHP, which must have happened at some point in time. CHP came and took it over. And I say take it over because CHP has the policy where it's theirs or it's not.
That's right.
They don't want to do the mixed bag of half LAPD, half CHP. CHP wants full operational control over the pursuit. So what they'll do is they'll ask those LAPD units to back out. Now, what I can tell you is most likely happening is that there is LAPD kind of tailing behind it. They're not officially involved in the pursuit, but LAPD is going to want to be, especially now that we're back on Surface Streets, LAPD is going to want to be close by. If this guy gets out and runs, they're going to want to be there to help that CHP officer.
And it was LAP that initiated that spike strip.
Correct. Yeah, and it was LAPD units that originally did it. Now, what we're listening to right now, there's another LAPD unit right there on the opposite side of traffic. What we're listening to, though, is that is a single CHP unit. Whoa.
Whoa, what was that?
Look at that. He swerved because there was pedestrians in that crosswalk. He saw them last second, made a left turn to get away from there. What we're listening to right now, though, Pat, is that is a single CHP unit behind it. It doesn't look like, and John, if you can pull out just a little bit to see if he's got any help at this point. But it looks like there's just the one CHP officer. Wow.
Wow, he's on the
really dangerous.
Oh, my goodness. Van Owen and Varial.
Yeah.
A lot of apartment buildings, strip malls in that area for sure. So still a lot of traffic.
Residential, very much residential.
Absolutely. We got movie theaters not far.
Well, yeah, I mean, we're going to be approaching Topanga Plaza here. He is on, let's see, we're at Canoga.
Canoga and Van Owen.
And Van Owen, yeah.
Certainly where it backs up, where again, you've got the theater, Topanga Mall.
And it looks like we just went northbound on Canoga. So at least we're getting away from the mall a little bit, but this is still a very residential neighborhood that this is all occurring in right now.
Absolutely. And again, CHP still behind this vehicle.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. You can see the red and blue lights there a little bit. CHP's back there. I did notice an LAPD unit was still kind of hanging out, and that's likely because CHP is alone, and they don't want that officer from CHP to have to, look at the red light cameras going off. You see all those flashes? That's from the red light cameras going off as they go through the intersection there. But wrong side of the road. I mean, and for no reason too, Pat. I mean, look, the correct side of the road is wide open. There is no reason for him to be driving like that on the wrong side of the road in such a careless and reckless manner. I mean, this is why, we bring these pursuits to our viewers, because of just how dangerous this is going through these residential streets.
Now, let's talk about something else here, Mike. We have seen, of course, in incidents like this, sometimes they have a tendency to back off because of how wild the driver is going. Now, I've noticed that speeds have dropped, and then he seems to pick back up.
Yeah, I would agree as well. I mean, right now we're 80 miles an hour, but before that we were a little bit slower. So he's kind of coming hit and miss there. The officer that's in that first CHP unit just kind of relayed on the radio that he does appear to be slowing for reds, which is kind of ish what we just saw right there. I mean, he is, for somebody who potentially was the original one. Now, is their head out the window, John? Looks like I saw them pop out that side of the window there, that driver's side window really quick. For somebody who was alleged to have been DUI, I mean, they certainly appear to be aware of, their surroundings and where other cars are and pedestrians and things like that. So, but no, yeah, they have not gone into tracking mode. They have not gone into a surveillance mode type situation at all. They have been full-blown chasing this person ever since. And I think a lot of that probably has to do with what this person is wanted for originally, their probation violations. We've heard like the laundry list of alleged things that this person has done prior to the chase. So because they... Oh, sorry. So LAPD is now asking CHP to drop back out. They want it back, which, usually when LAPD gives it up, they give it up. But right now they're asking CHP to back out. They want their chase back.
Well, we have seen, this morning we saw LAPD after a vehicle that must have been, from what I understand, a 2-hour pursuit. Yeah. Of a woman driving a Lexus that was stolen. I don't know what happened to her at the end of that. I'm just saying that, but what a way to start the new year. The year, and we have different reasons why LAPD decides to have CHP get involved, of course, and why they want to take this back. What is your thinking on why they're doing this?
My guess would be that LAPD has dealt with this person, knows this person. They started it, they want to continue it. I think the other thing tactically here as well, that CHP unit, while he was doing a great job chasing him, it appeared to be the only CHP unit. So LAPD doesn't want to put themselves in a position where, CHP doesn't want them involved because that's their policy, but then you've only got one CHP unit chasing the guy. So now that they're back on surface streets, LAPD is what they call a pursuit package, where a supervisor or a watch commander predetermines the amount of units that are allowed to be involved in the chase. They had met that, whatever number that was for their pursuit package, and that's usually 3 or 4 patrol cars, and each patrol car has 2 officers in it. So we're talking about 6 to 8 officers that would be available if this thing came to an end and they got to chase the guy. So it may just be for that reason. It may be that they know who the guy is and they just want to keep their chase.
Well, so you said the primary, the key word there. They want to keep their chase because they really want to get this person in custody.
Yeah.
In other words, it's better for them to stay with this and apprehend this person as opposed to go into tracking mode and letting them possibly get away.
And they're constantly weighing, risk versus reward on this. They're constantly trying to figure out, is this worth chasing this person? And at least for this moment, the supervisors of this chase have said, yes, it is. Yes, it is worth chasing this person, and we shouldn't go into tracking mode. So that says something about the person that they are chasing, because they are, have been so careful, I'll say, or specific lately about what they're chasing and how hard they're chasing it. And for them to, so I'm just listening to some radio traffic, but for them to want to continue this chase, not do it in tracking mode, and actually ask for it back from the CHP means that they're pretty interested in this guy.
Can John possibly give us a shot of just how many vehicles are behind this car?
Yeah, he'll pull out for us a little bit. So I see 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, and that's typical. So 4 units. One of those is probably a supervisor that's involved in the chase. And then you've got a bunch of units that are probably... Oh, so pit is denied. Suspect possibly has a gun. And they just reaffirm that they will not go into tracking mode because of that fact. So they just reiterated that this person is believed to have a gun. They have denied a pit maneuver because of that, and have also said we will definitely not go into tracking mode.
All right. Well, the possibility of laying another spike strip, does that reduce the chances of that because of this person possibly being armed? Yeah,
I mean you'll run the risk of putting an officer in front of the car. Yeah, and so when you do that, I mean, they did it twice already. It didn't work. Not to say they won't try it again. I mean, if the officer is like, able to get behind something where they have cover and, kind of have a little bit easier of a time doing that instead of being directly in the path of this person, they might consider it. I haven't heard anything, kind of saying yes or no definitively on that. I haven't heard it be asked for yet either. Let's try to see if we can get look inside of that. You know, he's moving so fast and the trees are in the way, but every now and again you kind of see a little glimpse inside the driver's side there. And this is that silver Lexus that they've been chasing. Doesn't come back stolen, which is, you know, how they know about this person's history and all of those things. The West Valley
that was a
LAPD,
wild turn.
yeah, the watch commander over at West Valley LAPD confirming to my colleague Orlando that this original want was DUI. But again, because they know who the person is, they know this alleged history of this person, and that's why they're taking this so seriously.
Well, they certainly are lighting him up now. Notice he really seems to be familiar with this area. He's been on Winnetka, you know, at least a few times that we've been over here watching this.
Yeah, for sure. And, you know, I'm just looking, and we're going to a neighborhood here. We'll see if he's going to try to bail out. You know, these guys like to get in these kind of darker pockets of places to be able to run. So we'll see if that's what he's going to do. This is kind of one of the first times where he's gotten off these major streets. But we basically started, Pat, over at Sherman and White Oak, and then have kind of weaved our way up and down the valley. We came up into Northridge, back down to Lake Balboa, over to Encino, Tarzana, Winnetka, Canoga Park. Now we're kind of back in the Northridge-ish area, working our way back to the south, I believe, kind of the south and then to the west a little bit.
Okay, well, again, he's in a more residential area.
Yeah.
For sure. Streets are narrower, obviously.
More narrow and you know, more chances for people to kind of, you know, be out, and especially if they hear the loud helicopters and walking towards them and all of those things. So LAPD always has to be a little bit careful. The turns are usually a lot tighter in a neighborhood too. But now we're coming back out. There's some CHP units that just happen to kind of be in the area. It looks like some utility crews and some other work going on down there too. And there's that LAPD unit in that Ford Explorer kind of right behind him as we kind of push through these intersections here. You know, back into our speeds about 70, 80 miles an hour. Again, wrong side of the road, and again for no reason. There's nothing preventing this person from being on the correct side of the road, and he just kind of, man, so fast as we blow through those intersections. And
that's the worry, of course, that you know, innocent driver could be impacted by this person here. It's almost like he went down a side street to maybe gauge or see if that's somewhere where he could possibly dump the car and get out and run, or maybe he was familiar or knew somebody in that area. But now he's back on Mason Avenue, which is, you know, certainly much wider boulevard.
Yeah, you also wonder,
major thoroughfare.
Yeah, you also wonder, Pat, when people like this, like, they obviously have at least what we're hearing, a criminal history. Is this, you know, were they going through that neighborhood to see how closely LAPD would follow? Were they testing the waters to see what they can get away with? And, you know, would a neighborhood be a good spot to ditch the car and run? And then obviously they were right behind him, so he kept going. I mean, there's a whole list of things of who knows what this person is thinking as they're behind the wheel. But, you know, they're obviously making at least some conscious decisions about where they were going when they pulled into that neighborhood, because that was the first time we'd seen them do that throughout the duration of this chase as we continue through these kind of major streets. We are now at Mason and Lassen as we continue to get to the north end of the valley, the northwest end of the valley into the Chatsworth area, which is the furthest north we have gotten so far in this chase. But man, we've covered a lot of ground on the west end of the valley. There's no question about that. And again, you know, it makes it even more difficult. We wonder, well, how is this going to end? Because there are so many different things that they won't do simply because this person, they have news that they could have a weapon. So that certainly presents some limitations as far as spike strips or pit maneuvers or what have you. But at the same time, they still want to get this person into custody and are more than likely, Mike, as you noted, willing to continue following this. Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, if they're going to be in it, they're going to be in it, and that's what appears to be happening here. So you know, they've got options. You wait the guy out and wait till he runs out of gas or gives up or tries to run or something, or you go the other way and you bring in Metropolitan Division with armored vehicles and that whole, you know, contingency of options. Now, we've not heard them at all discuss that. But if that's, you know, if they're not comfortable doing pit maneuvers, understandably so, if he's armed, and they, you know, don't want to wait this guy out, then bringing in armored vehicles would be kind of your next option here. Now, hopefully this guy just gives it up and runs, or, you know, obviously ideally would surrender, but as long as he stops driving, especially when we're doing this on the wrong side of the road. Exactly. I mean, it's just whatever he can do to get around traffic. It's not even that he needs to do it. It's just how he's choosing to drive. You know, you almost wonder, and we've seen this from time to time, that they know this is
probably their last hurrah. So they're just going to drive, do whatever they can, not really thinking that they're going to get away, because you can't possibly think that at this point, Mike, I would think.
Yeah, I mean, I think LAPD has totally shown its intentions here, and that is to stay with this guy in the air, on the ground. I mean, even taking it back from the CHP, these guys have every intent of continuing to chase this person to try to take him into custody for the alleged DUI, obviously, which was the original want, but the litany of other things that we have been listening to about him on the radio as well. It sounds like they just know this person and really want to get him off the streets. And as far as the person goes, I mean, that's, you know, I think the LAPD has shown that pretty well, that they're going to be here for the long haul.
And now he's back in Canoga Park.
Yeah, now we're coming back southbound. We've actually been on this same street already. This is DeSoto, coming through, you know, Parthenia and further south. So we've already hit this street once. Now we're coming back down it the other way. So, I mean, he's not made any real attempt to, you know, get on the freeway and get out of town, right? He's not tried to hit the 405 and go north through the Grapevine. He could have gone into Ventura County when he was on the 101 coming through Tarzana.
Very briefly.
Very briefly, yeah. I mean, he made the decision to get back off onto surface streets and hash this out in the San Fernando Valley instead of, you know, doing what we see a lot of people do, which is just hit the freeway and try to get as far away as they can.
And then keep going, but not him. And again, we have seen speeds of 100 miles an hour. Haven't seen that in a while.
Yeah.
He has hit speeds of 80, but for the most part, he has stayed in that mid-range of 50s. And so this is, again, it's almost as if he's just doing this until he can do it no more, and may even decide to just give himself up. We've seen that happen many times. Well, okay, I don't have an out now.
Yeah, the jig is up. It's time. It's, you know, let's end this, and hopefully that happens as soon as possible, right? Because I mean, just the disregard he has for public safety with driving on the wrong side of the road and his high speeds and all of those other things here. It just would be in everyone's best interest if he just pulled over, gave it up, called it a day before somebody gets hurt.
Unless we did not take back that assault with a deadly weapon. So again, there's also reason for them to continue
and the fact that they
try to get this person into custody.
Yeah, and the fact that they believe that he is still armed as well. Yeah. So we're going to continue. We're going here still on the western edge of the San Fernando Valley. We are now eastbound on Saticoy. Coming up on Mason is going to be our next major cross as we watch this person who was originally wanted for driving under the influence, alleged driving under the influence by the LAPD's West Valley station. Throughout the course of the chase, though, we have learned that this person has a litany of criminal history, according to LAPD, for various things. At one point, we did hear that they believe the person also may have a gun, and because of that reason, they have denied going into tracking mode at all. They have also said that they will not be doing a pit maneuver because of that fact as well. If you're wondering why, it's because if you do a pit maneuver, the idea of a pit maneuver is to spin the person around, and officers generally don't like somebody that is allegedly armed facing directly at them at the conclusion of that pit maneuver, which is why they don't do that. We have been seeing speeds all over the place here on surface streets as we go through that red light there here at Winnetka and Saticoy, a street that we have been on before. This person has almost gone to every corner of the western edge of the San Fernando Valley and is headed right back towards where we started on this in the Winnetka area. This pursuit first picked up in the Reseda area by the LAPD's West Valley station. Again, this person wanted for driving under the influence of something, and that was the original want. That's what got LAPD here to try to pull him over at the time. But here we are, 75 miles an hour as we approach the 10 o'clock hour here. Ooh, look at that, look at that, look at that. Oh! Lost control, going right through that intersection, spun around. Juan and Susie joining me here at the desk now. That suspect slamming into the side of that car. Sky Cal's going to move around, and we'll see if that guy's going to get out and run or what his deal is. There he is hanging out the window, guys. Hands up.
Yeah, he's not going anywhere, Mike. Really, after all this high speed going around the city, you said covering a very large amount of space. This guy basically came down because he took too wide of a turn.
Yeah, and, you know, terrible that it crashed, damaged the city property. Thank goodness he didn't hit anybody. That's right. I mean, the way he was plowing through those intersections, wrong side of the road, and he's realized that this is game over here. His hands are out the window, surrendering to officers.
Did he take down a streetlight, Mike?
He did, yeah. That's a streetlight to the left, and that's lucky that's all he hit, because right behind him, that's a power pole. So he, like, you know, kind of weaved himself in here, took out the light, thankfully missed the power pole, otherwise we'd be dealing with a whole other set of situations.
And we want to welcome our audience now. And we want to welcome you now to CBS LA at 10. Alongside Juan Fernandez, I'm Susie Sun, Mike Rogers at the desk, and SkyCal over the end of a pursuit right now. The LAPD was in pursuit. The CHP now ending this, right?
That's right, Susie. Mike Rogers has been following the situation here from the desk. Mike, this took quite a bit of time. The driver right now sticking his hands out the window, obviously is giving up. Can you tell our viewers here that's just joining us here at 10 o'clock how this all got started?
Yeah, so we're going to get some video here. We'll show you some of the highlights or lowlights of this chase as the suspect was coming through here. Really fast speeds. Left side of your screen is live pictures right now. LAPD making the approach to take this suspect into custody after he's finally surrendered after he crashed. On the right side of your screen, video from just a bit ago. We'll watch them take him into custody. We'll see, guys, because the door might be jammed. After a crash like that, sometimes, even though he didn't hit it on the driver's side, I don't know that they'll be able to open it. We'll see. Certainly they'll try. That would be the ideal way. Otherwise, they're going to have to pull him out of the window here. But officers have made that approach. That guy, as soon as he slammed sideways, hit the pole, that's when he said, that's it, I'm good, hands out. He has made no attempt to try to get out and run. He has made no attempt to do anything else. So looks like LAPD is trying to get those doors open. You see the guy on the left, the officer on the left, with that green-barreled weapon there. That is a less lethal beanbag launcher round. So they've got that there as well, certainly lethal rounds. But right now you can see they just cut his seatbelt off. That's what that officer's doing.
I wonder if he's injured, Mike, because I just saw the spin out once again. We're showing our viewers again.
Yeah.
It was the passenger side of the car that actually hit that power pole and eventually hit the curb here. Yet he's having trouble getting out of the driver's side of the car. I wonder if he's injured.
He very well may be. I mean, that was not a soft impact. It was enough to take down a light pole and, certainly do some good damage to the side of that car, which, by the way, we have not heard is reported stolen. So that's how they had all that information. Okay, driver's door is open. LAPD was able to get that out. And we'll see here as they pull this person out. Obviously, the person is conscious and breathing because we saw them put their hands out, and we know that it looks like the officers have been communicating with them. They cut their seatbelt off there as they were sitting in the driver's seat. So obviously the LAFD will come. I would assume this person would likely go to the hospital at least to get what's called a clear to book, which means doctors have to kind of sign off and say, yeah, you're good to go to jail. But he is able to walk on his own power, at least at this point, and he is being taken into custody. This wild, wild chase finally coming to an end. And I think we have some of those highlights we can show you now that this person is definitively in custody of this chase going throughout the San Fernando Valley. Again, originally wanted for driving under the influence, high speeds through the San Fernando Valley, all over the west side of the San Fernando Valley. I mean, we hit Lake Balboa, Reseda, Northridge, Chatsworth, Canoga Park, Warner Center, Tarzana, all over the place. This person was driving in excess of 100 miles an hour at some points on surface streets. The CHP, which you're seeing on the right side of your screen, is they were briefly involved because this guy was on the 101 for just a second. But then, and kind of in a little bit more of an unusual move, the LAPD asked for their chase back. And LAPD took the chase back over. That's who is there right now, taking him into custody. On the left side of your screen is what you're seeing live, where he's being taken into custody. Wrong side of the road, and guys, for no reason at all. The correct side of the road was wide open. There was no reason for him to be driving on the wrong side of the road. This is when he drove through here, and you actually saw all the red light cameras start flashing and taking his picture as he drove through the red light too.
And Mike, just watching the replay there, the car fishtailed a couple of times, almost like this driver was going to lose control of the car. We now know he's wanted for driving under the influence, so he was impaired, making these dangerous turns, going into oncoming lanes of traffic, this crazy U-turn right here.
Yeah.
Thankfully, as you were saying, nobody was hurt. A power pole did come down, and for a second we thought he might have been injured, but it just took him a while to get out of the car, right?
Yeah, it took him a while to get out of the car, and who knows if that was because he was just kind of shaken up, or he may be certainly sore after something like that. But yeah, I mean, all in all, this we would have loved to see him just pull over and surrender, but the fact that he was going at these such high speeds and nobody was seriously injured in this is really remarkable, and it's really remarkable that he didn't hit anybody else.
And he maybe had a gun, Mike?
That was the allegation the LAPD said and put out over the radio. That's why LAPD did not do pit maneuvers. They denied the use of a pit maneuver, and that's why they said they were not going to go into tracking mode, is because even though this person, there's the crash one more time, even though this person was wanted for an alleged DUI, they knew who he was, they knew his criminal history, and believed to have him have a gun.
It's really incredible. We saw this crazy driving, and yet it was a wide turn that took him out. It's just amazing to see it unfold. We thought maybe a pit maneuver would do it, but it was just his own driving.
And they tried spikes twice. They did try spiking him on surface streets twice, and he was able to see it and maneuver right around.
Wow. Just one person in this car then, Mike?
Yeah, that's it. We saw LAPD go out and clear it. He was the only one that came out, and now a pretty banged up car. Street Services is going to have to come out and fix their light pole that is now on the ground, and again, he just kind of was able to thread the needle there unintentionally and not hit the power pole that was just a couple of feet away.
And any more information about the assault with a deadly weapon?
So yeah, that was. It sounds like that may have been part of his criminal history.
I see.
Again, the original warrant was DUI. Everything else was previous crimes. There's also a bit about him being on probation violation and being wanted for probation violations. So I think there was a whole series of facts that came together here. That yes, the original warrant was DUI, but then when they ran the car, they're like, oh, and he's got X, Y, and Z, and that's what kind of amplified the charge.
And here's that spin out once again, Mike. What's interesting in what you're saying here is officers chasing him knew exactly who they were chasing. They knew who he was, right?
Yeah, and because usually these cars are stolen. And so they don't know who was behind the wheel, but the car is not stolen. So they were able to run the plate and figure out who he is.
All right, moving on to other